Last year, an anime started with a great story, fantastic cast of characters, and some of the most impactful animation, pulling off the visual spectacle that we normally only get for the most hyped moments consistently every week. Then it kind of withered and faltered, not due to its quality, but in such a rare outcome, an inability to compromise the show's high quality. Jumping into a new anime about zombies, it might feel like there's not much space for something new to be done, but Zom 100 is special. The series may have started in a Shonen magazine, but Zom 100 has all the hallmarks of a classic Shonen series, all doing something that feels completely fresh with it. This is why the first season makes it the unmissable Shonen right now, and why early production issues shouldn't stop it getting a second. Maybe the most important and difficult aspect of a series like this is the protagonist. In the first episode, Akira is a salaryman, being utterly beaten down by the world around him and his job. But then the world ends. Akira gets to live out the fantasy of completely shedding his mundane stresses in existence. The new world gives him the freedom to embrace this fun-loving side, and he kind of grows into a more well-rounded form of the classic shonen hero. He has the drive for growth, the optimism, the loyalty. All the ingredients are here, but it feels so much more than a collection of tropes. The trend in a lot of shonen manga these days is to do things a bit differently with the protagonist, from Deku sobbing all the way through to Denji's weirdness. Akira is a more traditional shonen frontman though, but one with a bit more depth. Although that doesn't mean you can't see the influence of the more recent jump there. He literally does a one-for-all smash punch, wearing this alongside a friend who looks like this. At first Akira presents like a modern, more reluctant shonen hero, but he gradually becomes the classical archetype. Akira's completely unfazed by all of the zombie nonsense around him. He's brightly coping and even thriving. There's no better example of this than in the second episode. His big plans here are to secure some cans. Genius move. When he's scaling down the side of a building to go and get beer, this happens. Akira has no sense of priorities, or maybe he's just wired differently. It's the key to the show's upbeat theme. He's completely reinvigorated by the new landscape. He isn't fazed by the world and quickly turns the end of everything into a chance to do everything he ever wanted. A big list of things to do before becoming a zombie. Basically to enjoy life in a way that he couldn't before, do everything he missed. It's refreshing, and he's so single-minded that he'd rather be eaten by a zombie than not do exactly what he wants. What's the point in survival if you don't enjoy life? That's not to say his philosophy isn't without challenges though. He has to win plenty of people he meets over to his way of thinking. It's this optimistic drive to actually experience life that pushes Akira forward. Where so many anime give their protagonist edgy motivations, Akira's a purer, yeah, but it's a lot more fun, and trying to make something more of your life is a lot more relatable too. The first real test of his newfound attitude, though, it comes when he runs into his old boss and becomes once again pulled into an exploitative workplace. Only now zombies are the workers' class, and any commentary here is not subtle. He essentially gets Stockholm Syndrome again, kind of a flash fragility, and then he sinks back into his old self. It doesn't last long though. It's undone in great fashion, with a grinning smile while reaffirming his new commitment to embracing life. This whole arc concludes with him even saving the villain, because a fantastic shonen hero needs a heart of gold. Most shonens have a habit of ballooning their main cast, adding a colourful batch as they move through. The first half of Zom 100 is similar. They're essentially collecting our supporting cast for a bit. In fact, our opening doesn't even get filled up until every member of the core cast has had their focus episode. It's a move possibly motivated by production realities, but made to benefit the show's evolution. A good supporting cast should have their own struggles, their own journey and development, preferably one that dovetails with that of our protagonists. Nowhere is this more textbook than the first season of Zom 100. By the end of the show, we see each of the core cast essentially facing off against one of their biggest fears, represented by a character in direct opposition to them. They're able to overcome it in no small part thanks to the development they've been on with Akira. The supporting cast in Zom 100, they aren't just plot devices. They're fully fleshed out and realised people. This is the kind of cast I want to spend book after book with, and good job there's already 16 volumes. The first that we meet is Shizuka. We meet her as Akira is nearly killing himself for some cans. Then we eventually get flashbacks of her backstory, but specifically how her philosophy for life clashes with Akira's. A chasm in thinking that comes up constantly throughout the series. Shizuka's pragmatism and planning versus Akira's openness. Their argument boils down to dreams and a sense of adventure versus safety. An encapsulation of Akira's journey through the entire first season. Not only is Shizuka a fantastic character to watch, the differing viewpoints and her own motivation add a lot to the show, contrasting with Akira's. A former real estate agent and aspiring stand-up comedian is the next of the initial cast in Kensho, a former best friend of Akira and someone else used to contrast the old beaten down, overworked world with the freedom of the new one. Just like Akira, Kensho's life after college has ground him down. While successful on the surface, he's been barely keeping his head above water. Independently, he's already embraced a similar let's just have fun with it mentality that when the zombie apocalypse kicks off, he's in the middle of a bit of a compromising position. It takes one chat with Akira for him to rediscover his love of life and his love of throwing off his clothes. Kensho coming round to Akira is much quicker, but the episode is one of my favourites. Even in a single slice, it's good enough to establish their characters, their rapport and bond. Kensho's own journey to develop is just as compelling as Akira's. He's even responsible for half of the bucket list, really. The last one is the latest comer to Zom 100 Season 1 cast. She only arrives in episode 8, and in that short time, we do get a good feel for her. She adds something vital to the gang. She's a weep. That's basically the idea for B. She's a German girl who saves for a trip to Japan only to have a zombie apocalypse happen and ruin it. It's a backstory which is pretty easy to connect with if you're watching this video about good shonen in English. As typified by the Hot Springs episode, B brings a sense of wonder at seeing more of Japan. Through B, the rest of the cast is able to see the world around them with new eyes. She fits perfectly into the optimism in bad circumstances vibe of Zom 100. As every new character is finding a better life after the apocalypse, B's extended holiday fits in perfectly. How much our supporting cast is tied together is even represented in the core premise of the show. They all add things to the bucket list, each of them. We're seeing everyone's journey, not just Akira's. It's a key part of the recipe for perfect shonen is a well-developed supporting cast, and it's right there in the DNA of Zom 100. Alright, so one thing I want to get across here is that this isn't really a zombie show. Personally, I'm tired of zombies and I didn't expect to like this show so much since it's literally in the name. That was before I realised something though. The zombies don't matter. They're the least important part of the show. They're an obstacle. They're just window dressing. They don't have the depth to be a real antagonist, and they aren't one. They're just a tool to push the characters forward, a motivating force. Like running away from a fire, or working to earn money to pay for more Masato Katsuragi merch, or whatever you guys have to do to find reasons to do things with your time. All across Zom 100, you'll find the characters are completely forgotten about zombies to chat up flight attendants, shoplift from an aquarium, get their hair restyled that makes it so tragic looking that it kind of spoils the impact of a really dramatic moment later. Akira has allowed an abusive workplace to dominate his life for years, and he's not about to let some annoying force of nature do the same. The zombie outbreak is an excuse to have more fun in life. It's not really the cause of anything that happens, it's a get out. It lets them wander around the backstage at the aquarium and introduces that kind of wish fulfillment to the series. It makes the most out of the genre's capacity for fun. It makes the world so much more interesting, but the zombies themselves aren't supposed to be the focus. The characters' journeys are defined through actual clashes of stakes and meaning, not some meaningless shambling foe. Zom 100 subverts this aspect of your classic shonen in a way. It takes the real world and twists it. The way that Zom 100 builds its world is much more fun than something grounded in reality typically would be. And it's not, really. I mean, Instagram's still working in the zombie apocalypse. Then Magnika's earlier work, Alice in Borderlands, similarly twisted the real world. This is a setup with much more room for fun. We're frequently running into smaller groups of characters who show off just how alive the world still is. People are moving, they're developing, they're continuing to live outside of our protagonists. You don't get the sense the world only blinks into existence when he enters the scene. Things feel alive. Even further in the first series, we get to the countryside, which is relatively protected. It gets quite Ghibli-esque, talking about true happiness only being found in rural life. Not because of the monsters in the cities, but kind of just in general, even without all the zombies being around. Zom 100 isn't a beat-em-up, and thank God for that. It doesn't need to be. A fantastic shonen, a real classic, must have some weight behind the fight. That's the key element. It's not just throwing punches, it's something more tangible than that, and it doesn't matter if it's beam classes or a battle of wits, there has to be something behind it. This show doesn't feature too many fistfights. I mean, there are some, there's definitely some. There's a decent bit of action, but a lot of the fights are a different kind of battle. Doing battles like this, more of a battle of philosophical ideas, means that when Zom 100 does do physical fights, and I'm doing the air quotes, fights there, you can't see it but I am, its fights are mainly ones that put the viewpoint and philosophy of each character up against each other. There are physical fights, sword fights, tons of action, but the bigger battles come from Akira trying to show his way of life to more people and keep going on his journey. It's a battle of ideas. Plus, the animation in the show is pretty damn good. Across the board, Bug Films has excelled. We might have had delays, but not a single episode feels like it's been a cheaper one. It's one of the most beautifully animated shows out there. One of the best examples of these philosophical fights lay in the handful of episodes held over long past the normal season end, where quite a few viewers forgot about the show. There's some spoilers next for the last batch of episodes, so be careful. One of the best sources of these non-physical philosophical battles is a character who is the final first season villain. A guy who also sees the zombie apocalypse as a chance to do whatever he's ever wanted, even down to the bucket list of the dead. But he wants to take revenge on the world. He's the dark counterpoint to Akira, in outlook at least. It's another common shonen trope, but done with a freshness in Zom 100. It's this clash with a mirrored enemy that brings everyone's guiding motivation into question. Having this direct revival, it's in your face, but this show is quite subversive in other aspects of their fight. It's definitely still the way to go. It takes what would be a fairly standard trope, but makes their battle an argument over philosophical outlook, not just who punches harder. It exposes Akira's outlook to questioning, putting his views head to head against someone who just thinks he's wrong. In turn, we get to understand him and his outlook better. Zom 100 does these non-physical battles expertly. Each provides insight into the characters and helps better round the world. Finally, we've got the most important ingredient for a fantastic shonen, an amazing opening. It was put together gradually, initially starting with just scenes of our heroes. As he added friends along the way, we got more of this opening added before triumphantly we get the whole thing in place for the last few episodes of the season. I can't play it in full or anything, but go and check it out, it's just fantastic. One of my favourite openings in years, and there's been a lot of competition lately. The opening is also highly representative of the tone and fun of the show though, it sums it up. It's also probably the biggest meme that this show has spawned at all. If that's your measure of quality, I mean, it's not though, right? You don't just count up the memes and go for that, do you? Zom 100 has an interesting take on fights, characters of incredible depth, and great animation. As Akira travels the world though, he's making that typical progress that a shonen protagonist does, but it's in spreading his outlook rather than growing in strength. This growth is visible right across the cast, and their impact on the wider world around them. Outside of the bucket list, there's this small matter of rebuilding society, and hopefully getting it in better shape than it was in before. It's applying the common shonen guiding light of progress, not just interior, but to your own development and to the development of the world around you too. At the moment it isn't known when the anime of Zom 100 will be back. It fell behind schedule pretty much permanently during its first season. Book did a fantastic job with those episodes, and they probably could keep that quality up for another series when they make the return, hopefully this time with a better schedule, especially if the pace is kept a little better and more lead time. Hopefully the production problems don't mean a change of studio, because the adaptation of Zom 100 we've had so far is one of the best shonens in quite a while, and so much of that is down to Bug. It might not entirely be a shonen, but by taking every ingredient of the best series in that genre, Zom 100 proves it's still possible to do interesting things in this space.